The Scottish Family Party has been setting out its policy platform ahead of next month's council elections. The socially conservative group is pushing for changes to sex education in schools and greater freedom of speech. Our political correspondent Philip Sim has more.
It isn't just the established parties out on the doorsteps. The Scottish Family Party was set up in 2017 and are aiming to make an impact with a pro-life, pro-marriage offering. Their leader hopes the pandemic has focused minds on local issues.
During the lockdowns, a lot of serious issues. For many councils around Scotland, their priority was installing bizarre tangles of cycle lanes and bollards and pavement extensions, totally out of touch with what local people wanted. So one of our main themes is to listen to the genuine needs of local people rather than imposing other agendas.
The Scottish Family Party is standing 84 candidates across Scotland and has opted to give them almost total freedom about their local platform based on the issues in their area. The party does not have a national manifesto as such, but it does have a set of core policies underpinning its pitch to voters. These include reforming education, opposing abortion and assisted dying, and supporting freedom of speech. The party has faced criticism over some policies, such as opposing LGBT-inclusive education and only backing fertility treatment for heterosexual couples.
Popular opinion is that the desires of adults come first, the needs of children come second. Whereas we reverse that and we think children's need for a mother and father, ideally their biological mother and father, is our priority. And we know that's very unpopular, but we're not against any particular group, we're just for the rights of children to be brought up by their own parents wherever that's possible.
The party will find out just how popular its policies are when voters go to the polls next month. Philip Sim, reporting Scotland.
So that was our slot on Reporting Scotland. It's good that we get that exposure. I think the BBC's charter or whatever, I'm not quite sure how it works. But basically they systematically give a little bit of airtime to different parties standing in the election. And I think we're in the bracket along with the 5 parties in the Parliament, plus Alba, plus the Family Party. They're the 7 parties that they're calling the larger parties, which we're quite flattered by. But that's great. So we appreciate having the airtime. But how are we treated in that? I mean, some of it's fair enough. But we've produced a very concise statement about our priorities for this election. So I talked about some of those. I was asked about some of those. But then, which issue do they focus on at the end? Fertility treatment for same-sex couples, which, let's put it this way, is not exactly at the heart of our local election manifesto. In fact, it hasn't been mentioned at all. So what they've done, basically, they've trawled through our whole policies, found what they think is the most outrageous and embarrassing policy they can find. The fact that we prioritise children's interests above the desires of adults, and they think that's the thing they can use to turn people against us, to embarrass us, to show what wild, crazy extremists we really are. They think they've really caught us out by exposing that policy. So they shouldn't have brought it up because it's not in our local election manifesto. It's not part of our what we're talking about in the local elections. But if it's there, if there's something we say, okay, we can be asked about it, I'm quite happy to talk about those things. And hopefully when people hear that clip, I think for a lot of people, that will be the first time they've ever considered the issue about prioritising children's need for a mother and father above adults' desire to have a baby, basically. So that's a good opportunity. So then that presentation was designed to portray us in a bad light. I'm not sure it succeeded, but that's what it was designed to do. There's also an article on the BBC website about the Family Party, which is actually, I would say, is very good, very balanced. It is based on what we produced as our text explaining our priorities for the election. And there's also a video clip that's on the BBC website. There's just of me answering questions in the interview. And also that focuses on our priorities. So I think that's very good as well. So that video clip I'll put on next. I'll just play that next. And speak to the BBC again this afternoon. Let's see what happens then.
Well, we've got 2 main messages in this election. The first one is listen to local people. I think during the pandemic, one thing that really brought it home to a lot of people is during the lockdowns, a lot of serious issues. But many councils around Scotland, their priority was installing bizarre tangles of cycle lanes and bollards and pavement extensions, totally out of touch with what local people wanted. So one of our main themes is to listen to the genuine needs of local people rather than imposing other agendas. And the second theme that we're majoring on is education. We've got a lot of policies on education. Every school in Scotland labours under huge disadvantages because of the advice and the policies of the Scottish Government. But councils could do a lot to mitigate those problems. So what we would want to do in local councils is to challenge the government policy and try and promote deviation from it among councils and their schools within them. When we're talking in general, we tend to say we're pro-family, pro-marriage, pro-life. We're also very focused on real education as we'd see it, and freedom of speech is also a very important theme for us. So bringing that into local elections, education is the major one of those that's very relevant to the responsibility of councils. So our local candidates are very much free, as I was saying, to listen to local people and to mould their policies around local priorities. And we do think that's a significant strength compared to candidates who are ultimately bound to a national manifesto.